I've been recently looking at what type of targeting e-commerce brand owners are using in their campaigns.
Nice.
And we find that different brand owners use different strategies in order to reach their new customers. And actually, I've seen what works best is completely different from what they're actually using. And this means they're losing out on tens of thousands of dollars every single week and every single month. So in this video, I'm going to go into more detail about what is the best targeting strategy to use and why it's the best targeting strategy to use, and just talk more about essentially how you can go ahead and implement this for your brand as well. By the way, I'm only going to talk about cold audiences, right? And these are people who never heard of a brand before and have never actually interacted with the brand at all. So this is only going to be about cold audiences. It's not going to be about hot audiences or warm audiences who have more rapport with the brand. And this is what's going to help you to scale your brand effectively. So just bear that in mind. And the insights and the knowledge that I've gained on what works best for brands in 2024 and beyond is what I've seen with a brand that I've been working with that has generated over £187,000, which is over $220,000 in monthly sales with pretty much a 14x ROI. So this is where a lot of this data comes from. And because of that, we're going to see exactly what is working, what isn't working with this type of brand, and whether or not this will be suitable for your business as well. So before we do that, let's just go through the first three types of targeting that I'm referring to. So obviously you got the first one, which would be broad targeting. This is essentially targeting where you're not really using any interests, you're not using any other types of audiences apart from just targeting based on gender and based on age and location. These are pretty much what broad targeting means. And this allows you to reach a whole scope of people who have no particular interest or that's actually been targeted. And then the second one, we've got interests. Now, these are people who are particularly interested in a certain topic or interest in particular. And this usually will help you to segment, which I'll talk more about later. And then you've got the third audience, which is pretty much lookalike audiences. Now, lookalike audiences is based on people who have taken a certain action on the website or with the brand in a certain way. And it's important to understand that this type of audience, the lookalike audience, is not hot targeting or warm targeting. This is still cold targeting because these people still haven't interacted with your brand before. So very important to note that. Now, most brand owners feel that one type of targeting will work best for them, such as broad targeting. That's what they usually think nowadays because of iOS 15 and the impact it's had on the algorithm and sort of tracking. But in actuality, it really depends on what your brand is going to do and what your brand is promoting. So you don't need to automatically think that you're going to have great results with broad targeting. But usually you want to go ahead and do extensive testing on the different types of targeting, and this will help you to understand what is working best for your brand and how to get the best results, because there's different factors that can influence what will work with your brand and the type of targeting that is going to be most suitable, such as, for example, the sort of profitability that you're looking to achieve and the scalability that you want to get to, as well as other factors such as your brand aesthetic, your products that you're selling, whether it's broad appeal, and also the budget that you have is other factors. Another factor that will influence whether or not you are able to utilize broad targeting well, and whether or not you should be using the other types of targeting. And this is exemplified by another brand that I've worked with, which has generated over €225,000 in a single month with a completely different strategy and also pretty much targeting in general. So it's very important to note that it really depends on what type of brand you are and what you're trying to achieve. Because this brand was pretty much in the skincare niche. They were essentially trying to utilize pretty much maximize ROI on their campaigns while minimizing CPA, but with an emphasis on trying to minimize the cost per purchase that they were getting on the cold traffic. So we had to utilize a completely different strategy, which involved any broad targeting, and this allowed them to achieve their target cost per purchases, which is essentially what they were aiming to achieve. And as we know, when iOS 14 occurred, this changed the preference for brand from using lookalikes and interests all the way to using broad targeting, because This meant they had a lack of trackability, which would enable them that interest won't be as good and lookalikes wouldn't be as good. And that meant that broad targeting would become more effective.
You need to remind yourself that you need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible. But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human.
As it would allow Facebook to have more learnings. So this is essentially what has occurred with the different types of brands that I've been working with. And now it's sort of become a case where all these three types of targeting are very useful now, given how people are now opted into tracking more. And this is allowing us to gain more data and leverage all of these different types of targeting much better. And before I go into more detail about what targeting strategy you should be using for your brand, I just wanted to quickly mention my consulting service, where I'll be working with you one-on-one with your brand, essentially getting you to your target revenues and goals, and with your Facebook ad campaigns. And because of this, I'll be able to give you the right insights and be able to maximize your ROI, minimize your cost of purchase, and also maximize your revenues that you're generating. And if you're interested in that, then click on the link in the description, which will take you to my Instagram profile. You can DM me there and we can begin chatting and we can jump on a call and see if you're a good fit. So click on the link in the description and look forward to speaking to you there. Now, as I've mentioned previously, that you actually want to be using open targeting, and you want to be also coupling that with a 20% budget cap for your hot audiences. And this is very important because you can only do this with Advantage Plus shopping campaigns. And because of that, it's going to allow you to have Facebook use the automated machine learning system, where they'll be able to find the best customers for your brand at the lowest cost. And it incorporates broad targeting so that you're going to reach out to the largest audience possible, but it's going to be intelligently picking out the people that you actually want to come into the brand and purchase from you, right? Because if you use interests and if you use lookalikes, these may be very good audiences to test, but you actually find that when you try to scale, they have a limited audience size, which will mean that you're actually capping yourself, you're capping your scalability, and it means you're not going to be able to make the profits that you want, usually compared to broad targeting. And nowadays, the Meta Ads machine learning is so effective that you actually don't need to be using interests or trying to segment your audience as much anymore, because Facebook is intelligent using the pixel data, using conversion API, and using these two things combined will allow the algorithm to find your target customer in a very cost-effective way. So why are brand owners who work with agencies having a tough time, and when they take it in-house, they actually get better results? Well, usually a lot of agencies like to use lookalikes and interest targeting in their marketing, and this can actually have a hindrance on the brand's results. And because of that, it means that there's like a miscommunication between the brand's goals and the agency's goals, because they're working with different types of brands, and this can ultimately lead to them just using pretty much interest and basic lookalike targeting usually is what they go for. But I found with the brands that I've worked with that actually broad targeting works best when you're using Advantage Plus shopping campaigns. And because of that, we've been able to get amazing results, achieving over 10x ROI on a decent amount of spend. So this is why I highly encourage you to use Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, and why I encourage you to use broad targeting alongside with that, which is pretty much compulsory when you use Advantage Plus shopping. So that's where we are, the direction that we're going in with these brands. And this is what I advise you to do as well. And it's important to highlight that this strategy will work best for brands who have a very good presence online already. For example, the bigger brands who have been spending previously a good amount of money on Facebook ads or any other types of ads as well. So their brand presence is there. And also for brands who also have very good creatives, very high quality creatives that puts them in the top 10%, top 5% of brands in their industry. This is where they're going to benefit from a lot of cold targeting and broad targeting in particular, because they're essentially going to target the people directly with their creative. They already have brand presence, so it's going to be easier for them to just target a large pool of people and get very good cost per result based on that. So if you're one of those brands who is more established, maybe you have a lot of spending history with ad platforms, for example, Google Ads or Facebook Ads or TikTok Ads, and you have very high quality creatives, which puts you in the top 10% of the brands in the industry, then you benefit a lot from broad targeting, and using interests and lookalikes is actually going to put a hindrance on your success. And I just want to clarify that if you're a smaller brand, or maybe your creatives is not as high quality or in the top 10% of creatives in your industry, then you can still use broad targeting. But I'm just exemplifying that if you have a brand that has more brand presence, or you have very high quality creatives that puts you above the top 10%, then this will be pretty much a very effective strategy for getting the best results, and you'll see a large increase in your conversions and your performance. It's important to note as well that lookalike audiences can work as well, right? It really depends on how much budget you have. Let's say, for example, you have a bigger budget and you're testing broad targeting, but you also want to diversify the type of targeting that you're using, which I highly recommend as well, which I mentioned previously about testing. So you can also use lookalikes, and that will enable you to have more options for you to scale.
Not bad, not bad.
And sometimes this can work, especially if broad targeting is not particularly working for you on this occasion or this time period. Then you can diversify with lookalike audiences, because if you target people who are similar to those that have purchased in the last 30 days or 180 days, then you're going to be targeting quite good quality people who may be interested in your product. So it's important to test that out as well as people who have initiated checkout, people who have a larger lifetime value. You want to create lookalike audiences for this, and this will enable you to get an understanding of what will work in your account and increase the probability that you're going to get great results as well. So what does this actually mean, given everything that I've said, when it comes to you just starting out with Facebook advertising, or you start with a lower budget on Facebook ads? Well, essentially you can still use broad targeting. It just means that you have less of a budget, and you're going to have to expect that you're going to need more learnings to get the results that you want, because maybe your pixel is not as cultured, or not as much data is on there. So you want to pretty much warm your pixel up, even though usually people argue that it don't need to do that. I would say that you want to get the data on the pixel so Facebook can understand your target customer, and so you can actually get lower cost per purchases. And broad targeting can be good for that. It really depends. I would go ahead and still use broad targeting instead of interest and lookalikes, because for example, you may not even have data to use and leverage lookalike audiences, and interest is going to still cap you on the sort of purchases that you're going to get and the scalability that you're going to get as well. And I've actually done split tests with interest and broad targeting, and I found that broad targeting does well at smaller budgets as well. But just to summarize that, if you are starting out with Facebook advertising, or even if you are scaling, I still recommend that you test everything just to see what works for that particular account and for your brand at that particular time, as this can change depending on the promotion that you're running, the time of year, the products that you're promoting. So you should always be tested. It's just that in my case, and the brands that I've worked with case, is that they're actually leveraging broad targeting is working very well with Advantage Plus Shopping. And as you know now, pretty much you can use any targeting strategy that you like. But if you don't have the right scaling strategy, or know how to scale your campaigns in an effective way, then all of these targeted strategies will not be as effective, and you'll still be losing out on a good chunk of revenue that you could be actually generating for your brand every single month. So in this video, I go into detail about how you can go ahead and scale campaigns in an automated fashion, which means that you're actually going to get the results that you want when it comes to Facebook ads. And it's very important that you couple this with this video. So check this video out, and I'll see you there.